Call to order the April 28th, 2021 meeting of the Springfield Board of License Commissioners at 5:32 p.m. on Zoom. And we are in the Law Department Zoom room. Commissioners Cade and Espinoza are with us, and I'm Commissioner Signature, the chair. So we have a quorum and we can continue. The first order of business is approval of the minutes of the hearing of April 14, 2021. Commissioners, have we had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Does anybody have any corrections?
Nope.
No. All right. I make a motion then to accept the minutes of the hearing of April 14, 2021 as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cade?
Yes.
Commissioner Espinoza?
Peter, I was not present for the last meeting.
Continue what?
Approval of the minutes?
Yes, good deal.
All right, I make a motion then that we continue the approval of minutes until Commissioner Siciliano has joined us. Commissioner Cade, you approve?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go on then to petition for change of manager for Trijal and Ashi LLC, DBA Springfield Mobile at A1828 Boston Road with our proposed manager, Lena Sakar. And I saw them. Oh, Sanjay. Okay.
Hi, how are you? I'm here for Lena Tucker. She's not well, so I'm
All right.
taking the meeting instead.
Okay, well, we met Lena at the last meeting, so I will ask Namako, have we had any public input on the qualifications of Lena Takar to be a manager of record of Springfield Mobile, 1828 Boston Road since our last meeting?
Mr. Chairman.
Hearing that we have no additional input, commissioners have any questions?
No.
No. Okay, I make a motion then to approve the change of manager for Springfield Mobile, 1828 Boston Road to Lena Takar. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cade?
Yes.
Espinoza?
Yes.
Commissioner Signature, yes. Thank you very much. You're all set. This is going off to Boston now, Sanjay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for cooperating with the commission and changing the manager on that license.
Thank you for helping. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, we will move right on to a pre-hearing conference for the Zamaya Restaurant LLC Incorporated, DBA Malecon Restaurant, located at 137 Chestnut Street. Genesis Pujols is the manager of record, and is a violation of February 27th, 2021, failure to call police to report a disturbance.
I will handle that. Okay. So,
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Dan Hagan on behalf of Malecon. We just request a final hearing on that.
For the pre-hearing, right?
Correct. We would just request to go to a final hearing.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, the attorney for the licensee has requested a continuance onto a final hearing. I make a motion to approve the hearing. Commissioner Cade?
Yes.
Commissioner Espinoza?
Yes.
Okay, continuance approved. Thank you. Next one is a final hearing for Malecon 137 Chestnut Street. Manager of record Genesis Pujols, violation of December 25th, Christmas Day. Failure to call police to report a disturbance and failure to provide adequate security. Armed patrons entering premises.
Okay. Briefly, I just have to do a brief opening. As Commissioner Signature points out, this occurred on December 20th. I'm sorry. This occurred on December 25th, 2020. we would suggest to you that Malacone bar was open that evening, and that in fact there was basically a gunfight outside of Malacone on that night. I would suggest that the evidence will reveal to you that at least one of the participants, if not two, that were involved in the altercation were inside Malacone at one point. I would further suggest that the video evidence that will be presented will also identify that not only was a patron holding a gun, but was pulled back into Malacone at that time. And as such, I would suggest to you that the evidence will reveal that they in fact violated yet again the conditions of their liquor license by failing to call the police when they knew that a disturbance was in progress, which began inside of their establishment. They failed to do so. And a failure to provide adequate security, in that an individual was able to enter into Malacone with a firearm that was later used shortly thereafter. As such, I ask that you listen to all the evidence that will be presented. And at the conclusion, I will ask that you sustain the violations for Malacone. Thank you.
Briefly, let me find out. I
think that's
Oh, okay.
Attorney Hagan's witness. Is that your witness, Attorney Hagan?
That is my witness, correct.
Okay, Attorney Hagan, did you want to make a?
You know, I would defer my argument to the end if I could. So you go ahead and proceed, Attorney Days.
Okay, thank you. The city would call Barry Delamarta to the stand. We don't have a stand anymore. Here. Yeah. Good evening, Officer Delamarta.
Good evening.
Could you tell the License Commission who you're employed by?
I'm a police officer with the city of Springfield,
And how long have you been in that position?
a little over 26 years.
Okay, and are you presently assigned within the department?
I am. I'm assigned to a strategic impact unit, and I take care of all the investigations for licensed premises.
Okay, and did you have occasion, are you familiar with Malacone Restaurant?
I am.
And where's that located?
137 Chestnut Street.
Okay, and did you have an opportunity, is part of your responsibilities to do investigatory summations or reports based on your investigation of a particular event at an establishment?
Yes,
Okay, and did you have occasion to do that for an incident that occurred at Malacone on December 25th, 2020?
I did.
Okay, and could you just explain to us how you became involved?
Part of my job is to review all the incident reports that get filed within the department. We do that on a daily basis. Looking for violations or incidents that occurred at licensed premises. I came across this report. There was also a special report that was submitted by one of the officers that responded that basically summarized the incident, and I started an investigation.
Okay, and did you have occasion to obtain video footage of Malacone?
I did. I viewed footage from the city cameras that are positioned right at the corner where Malacone is.
Okay, and did you inquire of Malacone whether or not they had video cameras?
I submitted a video evidence request form to our, I guess you call him a video analyst. That's the procedure we follow. I later reviewed case activity notes and discovered that he had went there and they left their business card and no one ever returned their call to provide that video.
Okay, and did you attempt to reach out to Malcolm?
I did. I attempted to call Genesis numerous times.
Okay, just let me pause. Who is Genesis?
Genesis is the manager of record.
Okay, all right, so you attempted to make contact with her. Do you recall when you first tried to make contact with her?
I believe it was early January. The dates are documented in my report. I know it was almost a full month later by the time I actually spoke to her.
Okay, and why is that? Did you not attempt to contact her?
I did. I left several messages. I called several numbers. I reached out to licensing. They provided me with a number that ended up being her mother. And shortly after that, her brother called me.
Okay, and who was that brother?
Josue Pujols.
Okay, and based on your conversation with Josue, I think I'm butchering his name, but based on your conversation with Jose, what, if anything, were you able to determine?
He had called me. I had to call him back the next day. He told me he was the DJ on December 25th, the evening of this incident. I asked him if Genesis was present. He stated yes. He told me at some point the security told him to stop the music because they were shooting outside. I asked him if they called the police. He stated no, because it happened outside, not inside. And that was about the extent of my conversation with him.
Okay. All right, now you stated that you received video footage from area cameras, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and do you have that footage here today?
yes.
All right. I would move to show the video.
No objection.
And Officer Delamar, have you had an opportunity to review this video
I have,
in its entirety?
yes.
Okay, and based on your review of the video,
Let me find out if the lawyer can see it.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Attorney Hagan, can you see the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
We can see it, yeah.
I don't know about attorney.
Mr. Commissioner, can you see the video too? Can everyone see the video?
I do, yeah. I do.
Okay, all right
Is
then.
there anyone who cannot see the video?
I think everybody sees, all right.
All right.
We'll continue. Subject.
And pause it for a second. And Officer Delamarta, can you tell us where this is, just to give the viewers a sense of what this video, where it's taken from and what it is showing?
So that camera is mounted right at the corner of Chestnut and Bridge, facing southbound. So that's 140 Chestnut is on the upper right side of the screen. The middle top, obviously, is Chestnut Street. To the left, it would be Appermont Triangle. Pearl Street would be on the far side of Appermont Triangle. The closer street, going towards the left of the screen, would be Bridge Street, and the corner of that building is Malacone. And the
Okay.
lower left.
The lower left. Okay. All right. Let's proceed. I'm gonna ask you to stop it there. I'm sorry, go back 10, 20 seconds. Okay, Officer Delmar, you had an opportunity to review this video, correct?
Yes.
Based on your training and experience and your knowledge of being a police officer of 26 years, what, if anything, do you see, I don't know how to describe it. Describe what is happening with the young man in the blue sweater with the white stripes with the boots on.
So he's originally under the vestibule, which is directly outside the door to Malacone. It's like a small triangle area. You can't see it from this angle. The other angle shows it. He's handed the firearm by another male who has an orange or red hat. He then proceeds to step out onto the street.
Okay, that's where we are now.
He drops a cup. He has a firearm, I believe.
And will we see that later in the video?
In the video, it's hard because it's moving. In the photos that we extracted from the video, I believe it's a little clearer. You can tell by, at certain points, the way he's holding it. From training experience, you can tell. I mean, right here, it's in his right hand, obviously. He's trying to hide it behind his back. Then he switches it back as he walks back. And also prior to that, before he stepped out, the male that was on the passenger side of the black vehicle that walked from Appermont Triangle up to that vehicle, he also has a firearm in his right hand as he approaches. It's unclear from the video if he hands it when they open the door or window, if he handed it to the driver. But the male that was originally on the passenger's side had a firearm in his arm. I believe that's shown in one of the pictures as well.
Okay, so let's continue to watch. And Officer Delamar, fair to say this is Christmas night, correct?
Correct, December 25th.
Do we know what time it is?
It's right around 9 p.m. I believe the shot spotter activation came in at 9:03.
Okay.
The original incident right on that corner that you just watched started right around 9 p.m.
And Officer Delamar, is where she's turning at, is that a one-way street?
That is a one-way, so she's heading the wrong way.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, Officer Delamar, can you tell the commissioner what view this is?
This is another angle. I believe it's the same camera location, but this one points directly at what would be the western side of Malacone Restaurant. So again, as a reference, Bridge Street would be on the right-hand side, and Chestnut Street would be at the bottom of the screen. And that heads northbound, which would be to the left, the way those cars are facing.
Okay, and with respect, since we're at that front door, with respect to the front door, can you describe what that appears? You talked about a vestibule, and what appears, what else is there at that door?
So on both sides, it's open. There's that cement pillar right on the corner. And then I would say the main entrance is, I guess you would say, kitty corner. Behind where those people are standing would be the actual door that opens to the inside and outside of Malacone. So it's covered. That area is covered by the building. It's just open on the two doorways.
Okay, and when you say covered by the building, it's still within, it's outside, directly outside of Malacone's front door, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, let's stop it for a second. Go back 10.
So is this what is happening right after what we just saw?
This is,
No.
No.
so just to explain, there's multiple camera angles. So this is the beginning of the event. So it's kind of the same thing we saw at the beginning of the other one, just a different angle. I believe there's three different angles.
The BMW is not there yet.
No, it's not.
So
It's
we're
not
right at
rolled
the
up.
beginning again.
Right.
Okay.
So the male with the orange hat that's in the road by the car
Yeah.
is the one, I believe, that walks away towards Applemont Triangle and then returns when that car pulls up.
Okay.
And does that appear to be the same woman from your watching of the video that was with the young man in the orange hat?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to call your attention to the entrance of Malacone. The person who's standing there, you know who that is?
I don't know who he is. He appears to be a security.
Okay.
On the back of the sweatshirt, it says security or something to that
The
effect.
man in the vestibule.
Right, in I guess the doorway to the vestibule with the black sweatshirt.
Okay. All right. Oh, they're clearly open because everybody just gets signed.
You're taking a shower here in the back, right? Okay. Abby, take your uniform off.
Isabella Mara, the young man who's in the door now, based on your review of these videos, is that one and the same, of the same young man who you state came out with a gun?
It appears to be the same male. He's wearing like a dark colored, looks like a sweater with a white stripe. And that's the male that he ended up. There's that vest.
We're not taking you long to the bathroom, okay?
Sir, I'm gonna ask that
All right. We're not taking long in the bathroom.
can someone mute their phone, please?
Another one? Yeah, Pujo's, Mr. Pujo, good.
Okay, thank you. And Officer Delamar, again, from a different view, is that the black BMW that just drove up?
That is correct. That's just pulling up. That's where it is.
Okay. Let's back it up to a second. Okay, Officer Delamar, during, you mentioned, stop it. You mentioned earlier that at some point, the guy in the blue shirt with the white stripe is handed a gun.
Correct.
Okay, is that what is coming up next?
Right. So the male that's the furthest right under the vestibule, it looks like it's either an orange or red hat, stuff to tell, some kind of writing on the front of his shirt. Turns, makes a motion, pulls a gun out and hands it to the male and the blue and white striped sweater.
Okay, do you know whether or not that individual that you described in the orange hat, whether or not he came out of Malacone?
He did. That whole group just came out of the door.
Okay. Okay, Okay, Officer Delamar, can you tell us what view that the commissioners are looking at now?
This is from another city camera that is, I don't know what building or where it's affixed, but it is facing westbound. So Malecon would be in the upper left corner, right at the corner.
Left or right?
Upper right, I'm sorry. Appermont Triangle would be directly in the middle with Bridge Street on the right side and Pearl Street on the left side. And that's 140 Chestnut Street at the top of the screen. And Chestnut Street, obviously, between 140 and Appermont Triangle.
Okay, and Officer Delamar, are we again stepping back in time from a different angle in terms of that BMW? Has it arrived yet, or is it not there?
It's not there, and I'm not sure how far back this one goes.
Okay.
I'm assuming it goes to the same where we started with the other ones.
Time.
So, right, so it has not appeared yet there.
Okay, very good. You can, thank you. Sorry, back up 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Okay. Let's stop it for a minute. The young man that's walking towards the truck in the red hat, is this the individual that was seen in the front of Malcolm?
It is. That's the one who started to walk towards Appermont Triangle, and then when the black BMW W pulls up, he walks up on the passenger side with a firearm in his right hand. And the male that's behind him in white is the male who was driving the black BMW when it arrived at the corner.
All right. Back.
Oh, boy.
Let's stop it for a second. And Officer Delamar, based on your review of the videos, the individual who is driving the car that just drove away is one and the same person that was inside of Malacone earlier with the red baseball cap. The one who's driving.
The white pickup,
Yes.
I'm not sure if the video ever shows him directly coming out of there. He's observed outside.
Okay.
They're speaking to him.
Okay.
I can't say it doesn't show that in the video,
That he was inside.
that he was inside. But individuals do come out. It's hard to tell from the distance, but so
Well, you know what?
there's,
Let's zoom in.
I will try.
We get it in.
So that was,
Yeah, it was that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's better.
they go back.
Yeah.
So where should we be focusing?
Well,
On the door or?
So it's well,
So there's two, all right, so,
Rose, can we take Rosa out because that area is important.
right.
Sorry, Rosa.
So at this point, people are exiting Malacone. There's 3 to 4 people. Those 3 right there, 4, there's one at the corner. They're firing across that Vermont Triangle, and the male on the left-hand side, the pickup is firing back at them. And then they all disappear.
Can I stop it for a minute? Now, the person who was behind the gray van there, upon your review, did you observe anything unusual about that person?
I didn't. I did not.
Okay. All right. That's it. No? Okay, Officer Delamar, briefly, I want to take you back to your conversation with Genesis. I can't remember the last name. Pujols. Did you have any conversation with her with respect to security on that night?
I did. I asked her what security measures they had in place. She told me, I believe she told me they had 3 bouncers, 2 positioned at the door to check IDs, and I asked her if they searched patrons prior to entering with a metal detector. She stated no, but they pat frisked patrons prior to entering.
Okay. All right. Now, based on your investigation of the evening of December 25th, did the Springfield Police Department ever receive a call from Malacone that something was happening?
No.
If I could just have 1 minute. Now, Officer Delamarty, you're familiar with the rules and regulations of the City of Springfield License Commission, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your understanding of the rules and violations, what, if any, responsibility does a licensee have with respect to allowing illegality to occur on their premises?
If there's any sort of threat to either patrons or staff, they're required to call the police to report a disturbance.
Okay. And that didn't happen on this particular night?
It did not.
I could just have 1 moment. All right, thank you. I have no further questions for Officer Delmar. Counsel.
Good afternoon, Officer Delmar.
All right, sir.
Excellent. Officer, based on your review of the video surveillance and your investigation, can we agree that the shooting that occurred on December 25th did not occur on Malacone's premises?
On their premise, it occurred on the sidewalk directly outside the premise.
Well, so the sidewalk directly outside the premises or down on the Appermont Triangle away from the premises? With the shooting occur, I'm just talking strictly the shooting.
There were shell casings recovered on the sidewalk directly outside of Malacone.
Okay, but not inside the premises in any way, correct?
No, not inside.
All right. Is it true that the video provided has no sound, correct? We didn't hear a sound. There is no sound?
Correct. There's no audio, sir.
Okay. So we don't know what people were saying outside. Is that correct?
We do not.
Okay. Now, in your investigation, did you ever get the name of any of the security guards that were present at Malacone that night?
I did not.
Okay. Are you aware that Malacone does not have a security plan on file with the city?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And let me ask you this. In your investigation, were you able to identify either of the 2 individuals who you believe had a firearm and entered Malacone? Were you able to identify who those individuals were?
I was not. And to be honest, that's not my job. That's not what I do.
But you're not aware of anyone, at least to your knowledge, you're not aware of anyone at the Springfield Police Department or anyone else for that matter that has identified who those people are, correct?
I'm not aware.
Okay. So for instance, you don't know now I just want to talk about the 2 that we see enter Malacone. I know you said earlier the 2 red hats, the video doesn't show them having even been in Malacone. Isn't that true?
I'm not sure who you're referring to when you say that.
So the 2 red hats that were outside in the beginning, I believe you testified that the video didn't actually show them having ever entered Malacone. Isn't that true?
No, I was speaking of the one individual with the hat who was walking away and then walked up on the passenger side of the black BMW. The video does not show him come up.
Okay. And so you were not able to identify really any of the individuals that were out there that night. Is that correct?
Yes.
And nor did the Springfield Police Department, to your knowledge, ever identify anyone out there that night. Isn't that true?
I'm not aware if they have or haven't.
Okay. So you don't know then if the individuals that we see entering Malacone with what you believe is a firearm, whether they had valid licenses to carry firearms.
We don't know that.
Okay. So it's possible they could.
It's possible.
Okay. Are you aware of any law, because we're talking about illegalities, are you aware of any law that prohibits a licensed individual, an individual that has a firearms license, from entering a bar?
I'm not. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's not addressed in the rules and regulations.
And it's not criminally illegal, right? If you have a license. Again, this is licensed.
You know, if a premise has a sign posted, no concealed firearms, then clearly that's their property. They can have those powers.
Right, but I'm just talking criminal illegalities in terms of that. There's no statute that you're aware of that prohibits a licensed individual from entering a bar with a firearm.
If they're licensed, correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Just briefly, we don't know the name of the individual, more specifically, the young man in the blue shirt with the white stripe. We don't know who he was. Is that correct?
I do not know who he is.
Okay. And based on your investigation, he never came forward and said, look, I have a license to carry, so that's why I had a gun and I was defending myself in the bar, did he?
To my knowledge, none of the parties have come forward.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you, Officer Dillon. All right, next, the I'm sorry, wrong role. Not the Commonwealth, the city of Springfield will call Officer Devontae Marsh. Is that the last name? Could you please take the chair? Okay, Mr. Marsh, are you employed?
I am.
And who are you employed by?
City of Springfield Police Department.
And Mr. Marsh, how long have you been employed by the police?
Going on a year now.
Going on a year, okay. And what's your detail at this point?
This is a regular patrol officer.
Okay. And what hours do you work?
4 to 12.
Okay. And did you have occasion to work on Christmas Day?
Yes, I was working.
Okay, you were working your regular 4 to 12 shift? Okay. And did you have occasion to be at Malacone Restaurant?
Yeah, I was dispatched to the shot spot activation at the Malcolm restaurant that night.
Okay, and did you arrive there?
Yes, at 9:03.
Okay, and upon your arrival, did you speak to anyone?
So upon arrival, I spoke with the security guard who was right in front of the parking lot of Malcolm. And I started talking because, started investigating what was going on. So started asking him, like, if you heard anything. And that's when he stated there was a fight inside the restaurant. The individuals were kicked out. And then that's when, at the same time, he heard like loud pops, but he didn't see where it came from or what it was. That's what he told us.
Okay. And did you inquire whether or not he had called the police at all?
I didn't inquire, no.
Okay. And yes. Okay, what, if anything else, was he able to identify the security guard that you spoke to?
That was it at that time.
All right. And did you get his name at that particular point?
No, they were too cooperative with us at that.
Okay. And what did you do next?
So we started to scan the area.
Sorry, I just, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just couldn't hear the last response to the question about the name. Could you just repeat that?
I'm sorry, say that again. Attorney Hagan, I didn't hear you.
No, I just couldn't hear the last response to the question that you asked, so I just can't hear it, so.
Okay, so which question?
Possible to restate it?
Okay, so let's go back. So After you spoke to the security guard, did you hear the question with respect to the security guard?
I thought I heard something about a name of a security guard, but I just
Okay.
couldn't tell.
Did you get a name of the security guard?
Okay.
Okay. What did you do next?
So we started to scan the area to see if there was any victims or anything like that. And that's when we started to think there was I think the security guard came out from 140 Chestnut Street. He started to speak with my partner. He stated.
Were you present when your partner was speaking to
I
him?
was scanning the area to see if I could find any like shell casing, property damage, or any victims at the time. So
Okay.
my partner spoke with the security guard at 140 Chestnut Street, and he stated that he saw a male reach into a black BMW and retrieve what he believed to be a gun. And then at that moment, he said that's when the male went across the street and began shooting in the direction of the Malcolm restaurant.
Okay. All right. And what did you do next?
So at that time, I believe we located shell casings on the Pearl Street side, the sidewalk over there. And my partner, it was three of us at the time, located shell casings in front of the Malcolm restaurant on the sidewalk on that side. So at that point, we called the detective bureau because our protocol is if we recover shell casings at a shot spotter, we call the detective, they come out, they photograph, the shell casings, and then if there's property damage, they take information for that too. So the detective was called for that, and then we just stood by to make sure that evidence was tampered with at that time.
All right. Did you ever see any victims?
No, there was no victims. To my knowledge, at least. At that night, there was no victims on scene.
Okay. Was there anything else located on the sidewalk?
So on the sidewalk, we saw the shell casings, and then in the triangle, we saw what we believed to be blood. It looked like a pool of blood, so that was sampled as well. And then there was a car parked on the Bridge Street side, that was struck by what we believe to be gunfire.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Counsel?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Now, Officer Marsh, good evening. Let me ask you, in serious investigations, you were investigating a shooting that night, correct? When you were called to the scene?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in serious investigations, are you trained to record the names of people that may have important information as potential witnesses?
If they're not cooperating with us, we can't force them to get that.
Okay. All right. Did you ask for their names and they weren't being cooperative that night, the security guard?
I didn't ask their name, but I believe my partner did.
Okay. And did you note in your report, anywhere in your report, that security was being uncooperative with you that night?
I did not.
Okay. And so obviously we don't have the names of the witnesses to call here tonight then, correct? Since nothing was recorded, is that true?
We don't.
Okay. Did you ever follow up afterwards to try to attempt to get the names of the security guards who claimed to have witnessed?
Follow-up investigation. That's up to the detective.
Okay. Are you aware if anyone did?
I'm unaware.
Okay. Now, to be clear, as far as your investigation went that night, no shooting actually occurred inside the Malacone premises, correct?
As far as inside, I don't believe it happened inside, but according to the video, it happens right in front of the restaurant.
So you see it happen down the street where there are guys at a car and he's shooting across the two streets at some other people running down the sidewalk. Is that what you see?
Correct.
Okay. I just also want to be clear. You mentioned a security guard that you spoke with at 140 Chestnut. That's not Malacone security though, correct?
It's a apartment building right across the street from Malacone.
Okay. So
outside, he said that he saw a black BMW retrieve what he believed to be a firearm.
Okay. All right, but that was not Malacone security that told you that?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, just to clarify, but you did speak to a security guard from Malacone, is that correct?
Yes, he was the first person we spoke with on scene. He was standing right in front of the parking lot, and we just asked him if he saw anything or heard anything. That's what he told us that there was a fight inside the restaurant. The individuals were kicked out, and he heard loud pops, but he didn't see where it came from or what he didn't know what it was.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Can I ask, on the video, the people who were in front in the vestibule there. Can you tell if any of those people are the security guards?
I cannot tell based on the video.
Just, I guess, a couple follow-ups if I could. You were never able to identify any of the folks that were involved in the shooting that night, correct?
So when we got dispatched there none of according to the video, none of those individuals were on scene at the time of my arrival.
Okay. And since you weren't able to since you were not able to identify them, obviously you have no idea if they're licensed to carry a firearm. Isn't that true?
Right.
Okay. And in terms of the your conversation, you had just said that you had a conversation with the security guy. I thought you testified earlier that your partner had the conversation.
Yes,
I maybe didn't hear it. But.
I spoke with the security guard for the Malcolm restaurant upon arrival.
Okay. And did he refuse to give his? Okay. Did he refuse to give his name to you?
Yes. I didn't ask him. I don't know if my partner asked him.
So you never asked for the name?
At the time, we were just asking to see if he seen anything or heard anything.
Okay. But so you never asked for his name?
I didn't ask personally.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, I just have a couple of follow-up. How did you know that he was a security guard from Malcolm?
He was standing right outside, and I believe the back of his shirt or sweater said security on it.
Okay, and at the point that you approached him, did he identify himself as a security guard for Malcolm?
No. So I just started talking to him as just a regular civilian to see if he seen or heard anything. He was one of the ones on scene.
Okay, and that's when he communicated to you that there was a fight
Right
inside.
inside.
Okay. Very good. I have another question. No, I'm sorry. One more, Attorney Hagan, I'm sorry. Did anyone approach you and offer to give you their FID of their license to carry card?
No.
I have no further questions.
Nothing further.
Okay, Attorney Hagan, the city, thank you, Mr. Marsh. The city would rest.
Okay, so we would call Josue Pujos.
Present.
Good evening, Mr. Pujos.
Good evening, guys.
Okay. Does your family own Malacone Restaurant?
Yes, they do. My mother.
Okay. And were you present at Malacone Restaurant on December 25th?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And you went there to help out around the restaurant, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And throughout the evening, were you moving around the restaurant? Do you have a good view of the restaurant throughout the evening?
At 100% view ahead.
Okay. All right. Now, during the entire evening that you were there, and you were there all night, correct?
Since 2 p.m.
Okay. Did you ever witness any disturbance that occurred inside Malacone Restaurant itself?
I never did.
Okay. Did anyone tell you that night that a disturbance occurred inside Malacone? Were you ever informed of that?
No one.
Okay. Did any of the security guards tell you that there was a disturbance inside Malacone that night?
Never. And that's the first thing they do. They report to me.
Okay. And so when you discussed the shooting that occurred down the street, none of them mentioned to you or said anything that disturbance had occurred inside, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, when the police contacted you in this case, didn't they?
Yes, he did. The detective contact me.
Okay. And did you inform him at that time there was no disturbance inside the Malacone Restaurant?
Yes, I did.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Can I just call you Mr. P?
Pujols.
Pulos. Okay. Mr. Pulos, that's your
Yes.
restaurant, correct?
I'm sorry. Go with that again.
That's your family restaurant, is that correct?
It is my mother's restaurant. Yes.
Okay, you work there?
I go and help out. Yes.
Okay, and you said that you were DJing that night.
Go a minute, it's been more than a minute.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
You were at the DJ, you were DJing that night?
No, I wasn't DJing that night. I was doing the runs inside the premises, making sure everything is going the way it's supposed to go.
The way it's supposed to go. So you were a security guard that night.
What I do is I walk around inside, make sure everybody's having a good time, and making sure nothing weird is happening.
Okay, so that's what security guards do, isn't it? Don't they make sure nothing weird is happening and everybody's having a good time and there's no problem?
The security's job is to make sure it's no fight, and if they see something that is not supposed to be happening, like sometimes people want to go on top of the seat, on top of the couches, that's their job. My job is to make sure they on top of that.
Okay, and on December 25th, 2020, how many security guards were working that night?
It was 3 security guys.
Security guards, okay, and where were they stationed at?
They normally, two of them be by the door, and one of them be walking inside around the restaurant.
Okay, and it's fair to say that the opening or the entrance to Malacone is not very big, is it?
Is a door, regular door.
Okay, but the space as you enter the door, is it fair to say if there are tables or booths like by the window, correct?
Once you enter the door, it's like a second door. It's like a certain like a little closet before you go inside the restaurant.
Okay, but once you enter the restaurant, where I would imagine your security guards are standing, there's not very much space in between there, is there?
You got to pass a double door before you get to the securities.
Okay, and once you get to the security, however, where's the security at? Are they
right by the door.
Which
the
door?
The second door inside the restaurant.
And it's fair to say that the door is clear. It's a glass door, right?
It is a glass door.
Okay, and it's fair to say that one can look through that second door and see what's happening at that first door. Is that correct?
Like I say, you got to go through a double door. It's like a closet there before you go inside the restaurant. So You're not able to actually see from outside unless you go inside that little closet, which is the first door. That's how you get to the first door.
Okay, so the first door, but follow me. So from the first door that's at Malacone, you state there's a second door, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and both of those doors are glass, fair to say?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and the closet that you described is not very big, right? A closet is not very big. Is that fair?
It can accommodate from 3 to 5 people.
3 to 5 people.
Before you go inside the restaurant.
Before you go inside the restaurant. And
yes.
And fair to say 2 security guards would be at that second entrance, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So you're not working as a DJ that night. Now, would it be fair to say, Mr. Poulos, that in fact, you're a part of your mother's restaurant?
Go with the question again.
Are you a part of your mother's restaurant?
What do you mean if I'm part? What's the question exactly?
Do you help out? Are you there frequently?
I'm there from Thursday to Sunday, every week.
Okay, and it's fair to say that you wouldn't want anything to happen there that could result in discipline or closure or suspension of the restaurant. Would that be correct?
Go again with the question, I'm sorry.
Okay, with respect to suspensions or to have the restaurant closed as a result of anything occurring there, you wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
Definitely not.
Okay. All right, I don't have any questions.
Sorry, I don't, nothing further. And I rest at this point.
Okay. Attorney Hayes, you want to be heard? What?
Sure. Yeah, I can give my argument. you know, look, obviously there was a shooting that night that happened out down the street. I think that's undisputed. But it's undisputed also that it didn't happen on Malacone's premises, the shooting itself. You're being asked to find violations under 204 CMR 2.052, which specifically says no disorder, disturbance, or illegality of any kind. So let's talk first about the alleged disturbance that happened inside. The video, as we found, doesn't actually show that the individuals that were involved in the altercation, that all of them were actually inside of Malacone. We have security guards who are supposedly talked to, but in a serious shooting investigation, nobody records the name of who the security guards are, who they spoke with, so that we could call them here tonight to give us testimony and find out what exactly happened. And they're supposed to have witnessed some pretty serious things around a shooting, and we don't have the names. Now, it's also interesting to point out in the report that the security guard reports someone who's not a manager. So it's unclear that they were actually talking to a security guard. They say Sostis Pujos. And so it's unclear who this person was. Again, we have no name, and they're not even up to speed on what's going on at the restaurant. So what we did is we actually brought a live witness here tonight who was at the shooting. We're not basing it on hearsay. Now, you know, the other side is saying you got to believe this hearsay of names they didn't get in a shooting investigation. We brought live witnesses who were there that night, a live witness who was there that night and has maintained the same consistent story, what he told the police originally when he was contacted and tonight, that no disturbance occurred inside Malacone restaurant. The video doesn't show a disturbance occurred, and we have no names to be able to verify whether in fact it did, to call those witnesses here tonight. So we're basing it completely on hearsay in terms of the disturbance question. Now, in terms of the firearm, it's also undisputed tonight that we found out it's not illegal if these folks had a license to carry the gun inside a bar. Again, we don't know who they are. It's an assumption we can't determine whether these folks actually had a license or didn't have a license. They were never identified. And so if they had a license, obviously it's not an illegality. And Officer Delmar was exactly right on that. There is no criminal law or regulation that prohibits a licensed individual from having a firearm in a bar. And I think finally, you know, there's no security plan on file for Malacone. So it's not like they were violating any of the security directives. They aren't required. They have no plan on file, which we learned. So for all those reasons, we would ask that you find no violation, as they can't make out the elements of 204 CMR 2.052. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Hagan. Commissioners, a picture, or in this case, a video, is worth 1,000 words. And what we do know is that an individual was present at Malacone on December 25th, and we know at least 2 people had possession of a firearm. Not counting the individual in the red hat, who would be our 3rd person. But what I would suggest that the video identifies is an individual who was handed a gun from another person who clearly was at Malacone. Now, my brother counsel's argument with respect to Mr. Pujos, that he's a live witness, I would suggest to you he's a biased live witness. As he testified, it's his mother's restaurant. He doesn't want to see anything happen, especially in terms of violations. I would suggest to you that his testimony would be consistent with someone who has a bias, and I would ask that you discount his testimony. What the video does reveal, however, is that it was basically an OK corral outside of Malacona that night on December 25th, 2020. And I would suggest to you that there was no call, not one call from Malacona. I would suggest to you that you heard the credible testimony of Officer Barry Delamar, who confirmed that there were no calls from Malacona. Even more importantly, not only were there no calls, but you also heard from Officer Marsh, another credible witness, I would suggest, that said that they spoke to a security guard. How did he know he was a security guard? He had on a shirt that identified him as a security guard, and he represented at that time to the officers that, in fact, there had been a fight outside. Now, while my brother counsel would want you to believe that, it wasn't on the premises, and it's reflective of that's their only requirement. I would suggest to you that a licensee is responsible not only for they're responsible for the licensed premises, but they're also obliged to call the police when they witness illegality. Now, one would have to evaluate, is it reasonable to believe that these gunshots that you saw going back and forth that no one heard, or it wasn't suggested to anyone that there's something happening and that police need to be called? There were obviously people that were still in Malacona, and there were no protective measures to protect the public safety, and even more importantly, the patrons that were inside of Malacona. There was an armed person within the confines of Malacona on that particular evening. Now, you heard the testimony of Mr. Pujos, who says that there are 2 security guards who are at the front door. So if that the doors are clear where the security guards would allegedly be standing. So is it reasonable to believe that the security guards did not know or weren't unaware or could not see that this individual was pulled back into Malacona when this altercation took place? I would suggest that the video would suggest otherwise. Security guard comes out, he knows there's a problem. To my brother counsel's point, we don't know what was said, but we do know by his animation, he's talking and he's serious about what he's talking about, whatever that was. Now, our eyes don't deceive us, right? Because we see clearly an individual who's outside, who is agitated. We see a young man who is at the vestibule of Malacona restaurant, who appears agitated, and it appears through various angles that they're going back and forth, and ultimately we have a gunfight. I would suggest to you, based on the facts and circumstances in this particular offense, that Malacona should be, all charges against Malacona should be sustained. That's it.
Thank you, Attorney Days. What I observed from the 3 different camera angles was a small group of individuals going in and out of the vestibule area of the restaurant. It is not a public sidewalk. It is clearly, nobody would be in that vestibule unless they were a patron of Malacona. It is not, pedestrians don't walk through that area. I can't remember whether that's level with the street or whether it's raised up, but I've been there, so I know that this little vestibule exists and it's only used for entrance and exit from the restaurant. This BMW pulls up. The man in the blue and white shirt is handed a gun. We can see that in his hand. He walks out into the street in a menacing manner, dropping a cup and brandishing the firearm, concealing it behind him and yelling something at these individuals with this black BMW. 2 males, the driver of the BMW and the male who greeted him, walked down the street, leaving the BMW abandoned for most part there on Chestnut Street. And we don't see until the later camera angle exactly where they go, which is way over on Curl Street, and they getting into a pickup truck. Meanwhile, the woman who was with one of those two men is moving the BMW about as if she doesn't know what to do with this car because they left her there. And then it's quite clear to me that the man with the blue and white shirt comes back out of Malacone and fires the gun across Ackermont Triangle toward the two men who were getting into the pickup truck, and then they returned fire. And a man who was walking his dog in the park picks up the dog and runs away. So it's quite clear that gunfire is going on. So in my opinion, Malacone should be responsible for the fact that this man with the gun was in and out of their restaurant. If there were two security guards positioned right at the entrance to Malacone, it was their duty to determine what all these individuals were doing at the door and tell them to either come in or leave, but not allow them to linger at that door and end up in a gunfight. So, and it is impossible for me to believe that a gun going off at the door of Malacone was not brought to the attention of anyone inside. Any security people, the manager, everyone should have heard a gun going off right at the door. So I agree with Attorney Days that there was no call to the police department, and it's impossible to know that the gun did not go off right outside their door, and inadequate security was provided because a patron was allowed to go in and out of the restaurant with a gun. Commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question for Hasway. Even if you have an individual who has a license to carry, the security guard would pat them down. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So did anyone report to you that night or that evening that someone had a gun on them with a license to carry?
Nope.
Okay. Even though we saw someone go in, so there was a gun on the premises that night, but no one reported to you that the individual had a license to carry?
Nope.
Right. Thank you.
I think I was able to observe that there was a lot of commotion, a lot of friction going on in the front of the restaurant in that area there, the vestibule. And I think it was probably enough to have caused perhaps some questions. If people are coming in and out, someone knows that there is a gun, I'm sure there was conversation perhaps going on. So I don't know how no one knew that there was someone there with a gun.
It does appear that the man in the white shirt and the young woman were anticipating the arrival of this BMW because they walked up and greeted the BMW driver when he pulled up. So it appears at least those two knew he was coming. What he was coming for, of course, we don't know, but they knew he was coming. And the man in the blue shirt apparently did not want him there and was trying to indicate to him that he should leave, which he did. He walked away, walked across Ackermont Triangle to get into his pickup truck, and then was fired at from the door of Malacone. Do we have anything else?
No.
All right. I would make a motion that we find Malacone guilty of the two violations: failure to call police to report the disturbance and failure to provide adequate security, allowing an armed patron to enter the premises. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Singapore, yes. So based on these two violations,
You want me to recommend?
Attorney Days,
I would suggest to you, now that the commission has found them in violation of the two current offenses, that this would be their fifth violation within approximately 3 years. As such, consistent with our rules and regulations of the License Commission, I would ask that the commission revoke the liquor license for this establishment. The recommendation is based on the seriousness of this particular offense and the other offenses that were committed that this commission sustained against Malacone. I would suggest to you that this is a public safety nightmare that's waiting to happen. And based on their prior violations, which included, as we know, which included, dating back to 2018, there was a 2-day suspension that was held in abeyance for 1 year for staying open after the required closing time of midnight, and a failure to file a change in manager. They were also found in violation for allowing the use of smoke material without the smoking bar permit, for which they received a 5-day suspension, 1 day to serve, the balance held in abeyance for 1 year. And those 2 days were also imposed for their previous violation, while having a violation while that 5-day suspension was hanging. And then on July 5th of 2020, there was a violation for failure to call the police. In addition to that, again, we find allowing the use of smoking materials without a permit. At that particular time, of course, with COVID, they were found in violation with respect to failure to abide by the current, at that time, the COVID-19 guidelines. Patrons were not seated nor wearing masks. At that point, they received a 15-day suspension, 13 of those days to be served, and 2, be held in abeyance for 1 year. Previous to being able to satisfy that, on September 5th, 2020, that a failure to call police to report another disturbance. However, you know what, strike that. And so this being the 5th offense, which occurred on 12/25/2020, this particular offense would serve as their 5th offense. And again, by our rules and regulations, in our interest of progressive discipline, this would qualify them for revocation of their license. And I would ask that the commission adopt that.
I have to agree with Attorney Day's recommendation. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts?
Can I be heard on that, Mr. Chairman, or?
Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, I mean, look, revocation is a drastic remedy. And if you see their last license suspension was essentially a 15-day suspension. So we're going right from a 15-day suspension to license revocation. And it's based on a incident that essentially, I think by all agreement, didn't happen on their license premises. There's sort of some inferences going on about what people knew. And I'm not sure if something happened down the street, they needed to call the police. So I think there's definitely a appeal very viable appeal here. And so I would just ask that you, first of all, I'd ask that you, whatever you do is certainly much short of revocation. But in anything you do, I would ask, just given the technicalities that we discussed tonight, that you hold in abeyance, especially with COVID, whatever your decision is, so that we can get to the, an appeal. And so that would be my request, is that you hold whatever you do in abeyance. This happened back in December 25th, so it's been many months. There's no rush, there's no urgency. Let's do it the right way. And I ask that whatever you do, you hold off and allow us time to get to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. I disagree. I think Attorney Days is right on the mark. This is a public safety issue. This is not a serving to minors. This is a gunfight in the middle of downtown Springfield. And this is a very severe, serious matter. And I agree with her recommendation for revocation. Commissioners, thoughts?
I agree as well.
Commissioner Kane?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I will make a motion then that we have found that the licensee guilty of the two accounts, failure to call police to report a disturbance, failure to provide adequate security, and that the penalty for that should be revocation of the license. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Yes.
Commissioner Cade,
Yes.
Commissioner Signature, yes. With regards to holding the revocation in abeyance until it can be heard by the ABCC, I do not think that that's a great idea, with seeing as we have a licensee who is having gunfights outside the premises. Commissioners, do you agree?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. So this will be effective upon delivery of your findings to Attorney Hagan. Is that how we? It's been a while.
Yeah.
So we know when now. Friday.
Yep, I'll have findings done by tomorrow. Attorney Hagan, I'll have findings by tomorrow to your office.
Okay, thank you.
I'll probably email them and also send them hard copy.
So this will be effective tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Well,
I'm working all day tomorrow. Yeah.
Or Friday.
Why don't we say Friday morning, 9 o'clock?
Okay. So this this revocation is effective Friday morning at 9 a.m. With findings delivered to Attorney Hagan. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to approval of the seasonal licenses. Exciting. We have two seasonal licenses. We have two seasonal licenses to approve of the Elks, EPOE of Springfield Lodge of Elks on the rear of Tiffany Street. This is for their pavilion in the back, and our Clubhouse Cafe, which is commonly known as the Beer Shack at Franconia Country Club, 617 Dwight Road. I would make a motion that we approve both of those seasonal licenses for the summer 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Espinoza,
Yes.
Commissioner Cade,
Yes.
Mr. Signature, yes, thank you. We do have, we spoke last meeting about section 77 hearings for licensees who have closed. So we have the fifth alarm and the typical Sicilian that we're going to hear, right?
That is scheduled for next year, which will be May 12th.
May 12th, we have a new one, Chili's on Allen Street in the Allen and Cooley Plaza. There was an article on Mass Live. They are closed as well. Chili's, Allen and Cooley Street. So it's probably Allen or probably Cooley Street. Cooley Street.
They're already gone.
They're what?
It's gone.
Completely gone. They have a liquor license. To those three. Okay. Do we have New violation? No. Nice change. Okay, we're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
We will see you on Wednesday, May 5th.